Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We know it's been a while. This video is going to be all about the Transom. The Transom was very frustrating. It actually took us about 3 or 4 months in the end, from the day we started building through to the day that we were kind of finished solving all the problems. The reason for that is that any kind of minor errors that you have when you're building the rest of the stuff kind of only becomes apparent to us as amateurs at the Transom, where you start to take another piece in at a different orientation, in a different dimension, that then doesn't fit. So when we first went to build it, what we did was assemble the sugar scoop on the ground and added the stiffeners to that, and then lifted it onto the boat. So this is the transom of the boat. This part's the kind of sugar scoop here, so we're going to preform this before we install it. And I'm just going to transfer some markings from one side of this sheet onto the other. These are for the sort of stiffeners, and this is for the centre line of this plate. This piece sits down like that. This one sits on the edge here. And so this has a bend in it, and that also has a bend in it. And then these little triangular pieces make up the end of the sugar scoop stern. So this bit will get mounted inside of this frame, which will be up there. It's got like a double curve on it, so it curves this way, and also then it's got like a flare upwards like this. And it's been a bit of a struggle figuring out how to get the two things to kind of meet. So we've got the chain hoist pulling the bottom plate into a bend, and then we're actually using a couple of clamps and a bit of brute force and ignorance to get it to bend that way. And it's going quite well. So we've got the sugar scoop, which is part of the stern, and we've assembled it on the ground and tacked a lifting eye to it so that we can lift it on. All we're going to do is sort of get it onto the gantry and lift it up, and hopefully make the transom today. So this piece, which is the sugar scoop, has got to go up there, and to do that we're using the gantry, but the gantry leg touches the wall. So really we haven't given ourselves enough space from the wall in order to get this piece in. So we're going to have to rig up some sort of clever hoisting system to get it to work. So to get the transom in to test fit it, we had to take off some of the frames and all the stringers, and had to kind of jerry rig some sort of lifting apparatus to get it to test fit. And it was only once we'd done that we found, putting the transom plate on, that it was a pretty bad fit. We really didn't have the right shape in the bottom plates. We've had a slight problem with the shape of the back two plates, and we're just going to show you sort of what we're doing and how we're fixing it. We've been working on the same problem for a couple of weeks now, and what it is that the angle here is too steep, and so the transom plate doesn't fit on like it should. So what we're going to do to fix it is lift the middle of this plate up, and what that should do is then kind of lessen the angle here, flatten it out a bit, and that'll mean we can then install the transom. You can see a gap here underneath this longitudinal. That's the centre line, and this longitudinal is actually at the correct position, so all we're going to do is just close that gap a bit, but at the same time the outsides are already too high, so we've got to figure out how to get the outsides down and the inside up.
Is it on there real sturdy?
Hopefully as we lift this up it should flatten out.
That'd be the dream.
As we started working on the problem, we found that we needed to make the hull more flexible again, and to do that we had to take out a lot of the work that we had already put in. So that meant taking out all of the frames up to the bulkhead and also all the longitudinals that we'd already put in. So that was a couple of months worth of work that we just had to undo. Luckily, we had only ever tacked anything in place, but it was still a lot of work to take that sort of stuff out. With the added flexibility that we had, we could try a few different methods to get the hull into the shape that we needed. And so what we did was we took a template from the Transom in order to kind of know what we were aiming at. And we took a lot of measurements. We requested some extra dimensions from Bruce Roberts Europe, which they provided. And we kind of checked where the problem was and kind of made a theory as to where we might have gone wrong and what we could do to fix it. So first of all, we tried just lifting the transom from the centre line. And what we found is that although that did bring the outsides of the bottom plate down, it meant that the centre line ended up too high and wouldn't fit the longitudinals. So what we needed to do was somehow lift the centre line gently while pulling the outsides of the bottom plate downwards. And what we came up with is a sort of reverse scissors. We've got two bits of angle iron like this, and they're kind of acting as scissors, so when we pull them up they'll flatten out the sides, and hopefully you can see here we've kind of got a bit of a template to show us what the angle's meant to be like. And yeah, hopefully you'll see us achieve what we need to finally. With clamps we can make that go, so it's over there. Hopefully it should be level. And so it is. So the final test is just to check that this fits in. Should fit in on here. If that's the case, then we can take it off again and just weld up this gap, and that'll be us done on the transom reshaping finally. And that actually worked a charm, so it got us to the point that we could then weld the longitudinals back in, which fixed the hull in that position. Looking really rather promising, that guy.
Oh my holy moly.
With the longitudinals back in, we put the frames back in and went to test fit the transom, which finally fitted nicely. So we put that in and then tried to install the actual transom plate, which showed us some other problems that we had. Although the transom was pretty close to fitting and the gaps were nothing to write home about, what it did show us is that we would be looking at other problems later if we didn't solve these problems now. And I think that's the thing about a kit, is that it is designed and cut to all go together exactly a certain way, and so if you have anything wrong, you're going to find problems eventually. What we found is that there was a slight sort of twist in the swim platform, which was because a couple of the longitudinals were just ever so slightly long, and we're talking 3 or 4 millimeters. Once we got those trimmed down a bit and reinstalled, we then found that by taking the triangular end pieces off the sugar scoop, we could then sort of manipulate it a bit more into the shape that we needed in order to fit both the sugar scoop and the transom together. So this side of the transom isn't actually done yet, but you can kind of see what it should look like. Yeah, we've finished this side basically, it's all tacked together. Whew, victory. I think probably one of the biggest lessons I learned there and throughout the whole of the build was that you kind of got to look at the problem as a whole and take all the measurements you can to get an idea of what's wrong, and then problem solve from there. And the great thing about steel is that you can just weld bits on here and there and everywhere to help you to kind of move things around. What you'll have seen in the video is the kind of exciting bits where we're making progress and there's a time lapse going on. And what really doesn't come across, I guess, is that this took 3 months of like every day working on the problems, taking measurements, thinking of new ways we could kind of manipulate the steel to get it to do what we needed. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again on the next one. The next one's going to be all about the side plating.